and do we actually have to target inflammation at all? Basically, I'll be going on that and telling you why inflammation should be targeted as a novel target in cardiovascular disease. Death globally, all of them know it's not a big thing. 31% mortality, and this has been documented globally all across by various studies throughout. In India, though there has been no big study, but in India the thing to note is that this, what we have been finding out repeatedly is that the mortality in the few selected studies which have been carried out is more than 31%, and much more significant than them is that the younger population is getting it much more than in the Western race. That is, you tend to get cardiovascular event in a younger substrate, that is the population which is more industrious rather than in the Western group. Say around 45 years of age, you have the same risk of getting a cardiovascular event in which you are at a 55-year age group in the Western countries. This is attributed basically to two major factors, though a number of them are there. Basically, first to a genetics, of which we can't do much about, and the secondly is to your diabetes, the risk factor number one, of which India is going to be the capital in the next 4 years. There is the most number of diabetes patients in the world. The Framingham risk factors: diabetes, lipids, hypertension, hemostatic, thrombotic, behavioral, inflammatory, demography, and genetic. Why are they shown? Basically, the reason being, what are we all doing to combat them? You already have anti-diabetics, you already have anti-lipids, you already have anti-hypertensives, and for hemostatic, thrombotics, antiplatelets, anticoagulants are there. Behavioral, you tend to do yoga therapy, and to a certain extent your beta blockers and ARBs and ACE inhibitors also tend to act on them. Demography, you can't do anything. You are born in India, so you are born in India. You can't change your race. And genetic also you can't do. So the two things blue down you can't do. These four we are already doing. Green one also behavioral we are doing. Now should we be the grey zone sort of inflammatory? Should we be talking so much of inflammatory zone, inflammatory hypothesis at all? For the past 13-14 years, this inflammatory hypothesis has come up as a big thing in cardiology, with many seminal papers, right from Peter Libby, Dr. Renu Virmani, who is an Indian incidentally, and many other things, which says that yes, you should be looking at inflammation and atherosclerosis, since medicine is now moving away from a curative one to a preventive part. So that is why it is important. So I show the last slide I showed you that the risk factors. Higher, the conventional thing should be showing that higher the risk score, there should be higher an event of CVA, means cardiovascular event. But there have been 60% of those who have been developing coronary events who have only one. And even more worrying is that even half of them have either a normal or just a mildly increased lipid values, which you would not even look at. You would leave them to say a 35-year-old, leaving him apart at lifestyle changes and calling him back at your OPD clinic after 3 months. And we have been seeing those patients of late getting myocardial infarctions, 30-35-year-olds. You just leave them on lifestyle measures, even don't prescribe a statin, and they come back with a myocardial infarction 2 or 3 months down the line. So there was a multivariate adjusted risk study done which showed that marker of inflammation, that is the hsCRP, does it additively show any difference compared to an LDL? So if you see the right side chart, the LDL with a level of less than 130, 130 to 160 and more than 160, when you have added upon the CRP, then it shows a markedly increased risk of having a cardiovascular event, and at all levels of Framingham risk score, it is predicting a cardiovascular event. And this has been borne out by the various guidelines. If you see 2003, it was what is shown on the table is somewhere a 2B or 3A recommendation. They didn't do much about fine. You can measure CRP if you want so. Contrasting 2010, you should measure CRP in apparently healthy population, and you see the recent 13-1, they have gone up to saying that you should be risk stratifying with hsCRP. for cardiovascular risk in adults. So what is this all drama about inflammation? Why is it so important? Basically, the basic is, suppose you are shaving in the morning and you have an intact skin. And, you just shave, nothing happens, and a blunt skin, you go out. But suppose you have a raw area on your skin and then you try to shave, then you can just imagine the profuse amount of blood that is going to come out. This is roughly the analogy I am going to play out here. You have an activated this thing over here. This is an intact endothelial membrane. Once it is intact, nothing is going to happen, no coronary event is there, fine. Basically, they should remain intact. And this is the vessel lumen. We should not get compromised by any thrombus or anything leading to any unstable angina or myocardial infarction. That is the crux of the matter. So you have an activated monocyte which comes in, and this is the LDL coming in and forming the bad LDL, that is the oxidized LDL, which works as a trigger for inflammation. And once there is the oxidized LDL, then you have this NFK beta and the dendritic cell, which we used to be taught in our this biochemistry classes long back away. And then you have those two pathways, NFK beta pathway and the kinurine pathway, the inflammatory pathways, mediators. And the most dangerous of this is the foam cell. If you see in the between, the foam cell is the one which in the finally causes that plaque rupture. This is all the media and the intima. There will be a plaque, and the plaque, the foam cell, then it ruptures this endothelial membrane and goes into the vessel lumen. When does this occur? We are all eating heavy oily food and all, it goes inside. We have a heavy atherogenic material going on years and years together, and one fine day when you have a foam cell and it is a unstable plaque basically, and it ruptures into the vessel lumen, leading to a catastrophe. Either unstable angina occurs, or means if you have some amount of blood flowing through, or a myocardial infarction when you have the whole lumen blocked basically. So what have we been doing for this till now? Till now, the green ones, statins we all know across the board, everybody prescribes, it is a general anti-inflammatory thing. PPR gamma, that is the thiazolidinediones, pioglitazone, rosiglitazone was banned, so incidentally we just have the pioglitazones now. Antiplatelets, we all know, that's aspirin and clopidogrel and ticagrelor. And a new molecule, that is the canakinumab. These were the old ones which have been there for about 15-20 days. 15-20 years, I'm sorry. The blue ones show you the novel ones. That is the curcumin, which NFK beta, which was just discussed, and the HA anti-inflammatory metabolites. Quickly take you through this. The current targets are on the left side. We are already having the statins, ACE inhibitors, antiplatelets, thiazolidinediones, etc. And the right side is the novel targets. Basically, the 3-HA anti-inflammatory metabolites or the NFK beta anti-inflammatory ones. The current company bringing up the curcumin part. Poignant thing to note is that if I am just going back one slide, the curcumin one, why is it secondly important rather than the other side? Not because that they have brought on. The thiazolidinediones have in cardiac practice, they have gone down in the as anti-diabetics because of their problem with heart failure patients. Rosiglitazone was outrightly banned, and pioglitazone as a class 2B indication if you have a ejection fraction less than 45%. So there is nothing to act there where the thiazolidinediones was acting, and as a novel anti-inflammatory agent in the form of curcumin is basically coming up. This is the tryptophan pathway. I will not go much into the detail. Then you can just see that this has been shown, the 3-HA thing, to be plays an important role in immunoregulation. And this slide is important. There is a 3-HA effect on plasma lipids. It has got a significant decrease in plasma cholesterol at the triglycerides, the bad cholesterol, the VLDL, and increases the good cholesterol, that is the HDL. Histopathologically well studied, it has also been shown to significantly reduce inflammation and the atherosclerotic lesions. But this has been all in vitro studies, not in vivo studies, double blind, have not been done till now. Summary, 3-HAA was a powerful inhibitor of atherosclerotic lesions and reduces vascular inflammation. NF-κ beta pathways will just be shown. So in inflammatory stimuli, where to inflammatory stimuli? Yes, this translocation of the nucleus is basically stopped by the curcumin. So curcumin is acting here and helping you to deactivate this basic, inactivate basically this inflammatory process. If you have this inactivation of this process, so you do not tend to have those plaque ruptures and things. The studies in cardiovascular disease has been basically there has been a decrease in CRP, decreased MI with CABG, and though this was the second one was not a very big study, but there has been shown a decreased MI and the p-value was significant in that. And significantly reduces the serum cholesterol, that is the LDL, the one which is the strongest predictor of CV mortality, and increases the HDL1. And it has also been shown to improve the left ventricular diastolic function, which is helps in your day-to-day life, though not may not cause mortality as much, but increases your day-to-day life, and prevents progression of diabetic nephropathy, and also decreases fasting blood glucose, HbA1c, and insulin resistance. So there are other promising therapies, one of which has been shown by curcumin, and this, despite optimum therapy with current drugs, still 1/3 of the low-risk individuals, which I showed earlier, with no risk factor or just borderline triglyceride or lipid levels, will go on to develop coronary artery disease. This should be kept in mind, and so preventive cure must be thought of rather than a curative medicine. Tackling inflammation provides the potential to improve cardiovascular outcomes further. Rather, it is basically taking cardiology one step, or rather medicine one step ahead, and not doing stenting and always, and rather preventing the thing from going till stenting. You keep it at a stable stage so that the stage doesn't come at all. And third is, some molecules targeting inflammation are being developed. As like any new technology, I feel it should be welcomed with open arms. 15 to 20 years back in practice, even as a respected seniors know, statins and ecospirins were not so widely prevalent in practice. Today, you hardly find a doctor who is not giving an ecospirin or statin over the counter. And in the West, it is in fact over the counter drugs. You never know, 15 years down the line, or even 10 years down the line, this curcumin becomes a over the counter or a must drug. Thank you.